Chapter 271, Settling Placement. The next day, Tang Guisheng personally presided over the process of ancestors' veneration for Tang Xiu and Su Lingyun, arranging the ancestors' worship position as well as recording the names of both of them in the Tang family tree. Immediately after, Tang Xiu took his parents to board Ouyang Lulu's private jet and directly flew to Star City. Chen Zhizhong and Gu Xiaoxue were also coming together with them. But Tang Xiu and Long Zhengyu drove his Land Rover SUV back to Star City at high speed while Tang Xiu drove all the way to Qinghe County toward the Su village, checking on his grandmother and fetching Su Ben and Su Quan, then going back to Star City again. South Gate Town. When Tang Yunda entered the Grand Villa, he was shocked. Although he knew from his wife that his son, Tang Xiu, made a lot of money and now lived in a large villa, but he was still stupefied, because he had never imagined that the villa would turn out to be so luxurious. Grandma Guyin was sitting on the sofa in the living room, listening to music. As she saw Su Lingyun entering the living room, she was pleasantly surprised and quickly removed her headset and ran over. At the opposite side of the sofa, Kong Xia was also there. She was reading a financial magazine when she heard Gu Yin's shout and was also surprised. She knew from Gu Yin that the one she called grandmother was none other than Tang Xiu's mother. Looking ahead, Kong Xiu realized that a lot of people were entering the living room. Smiling, Su Lingyun loosened her hands pushing the wheelchair. She directly hugged Gu Yin. "Yin dear, have you been a good girl?" "Of course, Yin is always a good girl." "Grandma, I missed you," Gu Yin laughed. Su Lingyun stroked her hair, smiling. After that, she put her down on the floor. Pointing at Tang Yunda on the wheelchair, she spoke, "Yin, he's your master's father. You may call him Grandpa." Gu Yin was stunned, observing Tang Yunda curiously. She then called out in a well-behaved manner, "Grandpa, have you been good?" "I'm Gu Yin, you can call me Yin." Tang Yunda had long since learned about Gu Yin and replied with a smile, "Hi, Yin. Later on, we're all one family." Gu Yin looked up and then gazed back at Su Lingyun. Su Lingyun nodded to her and then greeted Kong Xia. It was her first time seeing Kong Xia. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "And you are?" Recalling what had happened and the relationship between her and Tang Xiu, Kong Xia felt somewhat disturbed. However, at this moment, she also saw Ouyang Lulu and Gu Xiaoxue behind, her mood turning complicated. She knew that Ouyang Lulu liked Tang Xiu, but she had never thought that aside from her, there was also another more fairy-like woman. Slightly hesitating, she quickly calmed herself and put away her complicated emotions, replying with a smile, "Hi, Auntie." "Hi, Uncle. I'm Kong Xia." Su Lingyun suddenly understood and seized her hands quickly as she smiled. "Ah, so you're Kong Xia. Xiu and Yin often tell me about you, but I've yet to see you. You're truly beautiful and thoughtful. My son told me that you're the one who manages the business, making you very busy. It's really laborious for you, isn't it?" Feeling Su Lingyun's amicable demeanor, Kong Xia's smile got brighter. "This is what I'm supposed to do, Auntie. About the business issues, it's your and Xiu's matter. But we've left Star City for so many days, while you're apparently also taking care of Yin. In this regard, I really can't thank you enough." Kong Xia modestly returned the pleasantries. Immediately after, Su Lingyun also introduced her to Ouyang Lulu and Gu Xiaoxue. When she learned that Kong Xia and Ouyang Lulu already knew each other, she no longer said anything. Originally, as Kong Xia saw that Su Lingyun had come back, she was ready to leave. But then, after Su Lingyun learned that she was having her day off, she insisted on her staying. With such intimate and warm manner, Kong Xia was unable to refuse it. In the afternoon, Tang Xiu had returned to South Gate Town and found that aside from Chen Zhizhong, everyone else was in his home. After chatting with everyone for a while, he then called Kong Xia to his bedroom on the second floor. "Boss, I'm not happy with you. As Kang Xia closed the bedroom's door, she spoke with a bit of dissatisfaction on her beautiful face, pouting as though a young girl. How so? Asked Tang Xiu, puzzled. I already know that you treated Uncle Tang, and you almost lost your life. But the others, including Ouyang Lulu, knew about it, but I heard nothing. Shaking his head, Tang Xiu smiled. It was too sudden a matter, whereas you yourself have a lot of things to manage in Star City. Hence, they didn't tell you. But anyways, I'm okay, now, so you can put down your worry. Kang Xia scoffed. She then came to Tang Xiu's side, held his arm and said, later on, you're not allowed to encounter any dangers again. Even if you don't care, but please do it for me, for the sake of our magnificent Tang Corporation also. You're the big boss, what will happen if you got on an accident? How will I manage it? Tang Xiu and Kang Xia had gotten into an intimate relationship, so he didn't reject her intimacy. Instead, he patted her arm and laughed, rest easy. I'll certainly pay attention to my safety in the future. Anyways, the reason I called you is that I need to tell you something. What? Asked Kang Xia curiously. Firstly, I'll be going to Jingmen Island and then abroad directly from there. If all goes well, I'll be back within 10 to 15 days. If there are special circumstances, I'm afraid it'll have to wait until September 1st for the Shanghai University starting classes, said Tang Xiu. Kang Xia had already known that Tang Xiu was going to the private island he had bought. Thus, she nodded, don't worry, I'll take good care of the company, auntie and uncle. I'll be there if there's anything they need. Nodding, Tang Xiu then asked the matter he wanted to know the most, what about the winery? Is Scarblade Chung done with the winemaking? Upon hearing it, Kang Xia's eyes turned bright immediately and said happily, he's done brewing, and the taste is better than the previous ones. That good wine absolutely can be called the world's finest. Also, I've thought of the brand name for the wine. It will be called God's Nectar. The other company leaders and I have also discussed the fixed price for it, 18,888 yuan per bottle. Tang Xiu laughed, the price is just. We have just set up the winery. The scale is too small and the wine production will be limited. Thus, we have to take the high-end route. In addition, of our company's several products, the drinks will be the most profitable products entering the market. As for the promotion, marketing and sales, it will be yours to manage. Hearing that, Kang Xia also laughed happily. Anyways, by September 15th this year, a 3-year event of domestic wine tasting conference will also be held in Shanghai, so I'll be taking our God's Nectar to participate in the event. I'm sure that it will be a sensational blockbuster. Also, I've decided to set the sales date for the God's Nectar on September 18th. Whilst walking toward the cloakroom, Tang Xiu then said, you call the shots for this decision. Having gotten Tang Xiu's approval, Kang Xia felt happy and sweet. She followed him to the cloakroom. As she saw that Tang Xiu was about to change clothes, she quickly asked, Boss, when will you go to Jingmen Island? After the dinner. I'll also bring Yinin with me.
Ah.
Right. I also have brought along Su Ben and Su Quan from my hometown, Qinghe County. Put them to work as security guards on the winery first. I grew up with them so I know their personalities. Su Ben is an upright and honest, consistent and diligent person. He's a good candidate to be trained as a security captain. As for Su Quan, he's a smart, creative one. Place him in the security corps first. After a period of time, transfer him to the company's sales department and let him start from the bottom. If his performance is good, promote him properly. Understood, replied Kang Xia with a nod. Tang Xiu swiftly picked a few pieces of underwear and a casual jacket, and stuffed them into his suitcase as well as putting a few pairs of shoes and socks into it and pulled the zipper. He then turned around to look at Kang Xia, saying, if there's nothing else, you can go down. I want to take a bath and change my clothes. A smile was revealed on the corner of Kang Xia's mouth. She moved away from the door and asked, do do you want me to rub your back for you? You want a bath with me? No problem. Buy some clothes for changing over, so when you want to have a couple's bath, then come to find me, said Tang Xiu with an odd expression. Bah, who the hell wants to have a couple's bath with you? Kong Xia's attractive face blushed as she quickly turned around and left. In fact, she was indeed tempted. After they had slept together, that taste of climaxing kept appearing inside her. However, there were Tang Xiu's parents, Ouyang Lulu and Gu Xiaoxue downstairs. Even if her skin turned thicker, it was impossible for her. At evening, Tang Xiu and everyone else had dinner at home. Then, he took Gu Yin along with Ouyang Lulu and Gu Xiaoxue to Star City Airport and boarded Ouyang Lulu's private jet to Jingmen Island. Counting the days, he hadn't been back to Jingmen Island for about 1 or 2 months, and he also didn't see Yen in this period of time. Sitting comfortably on the private jet's couch, Tang Xiu looked through the windows the dark sky outside. An eager and anxious mood suddenly emerged inside his heart as he wanted to see Gu Yen as well as accompanying her to chat. It was 9 p.m. when the private jet landed at Jingmen Island's airport. Having exited from the airport, Tang Xiu suddenly stopped. Looking at Ouyang Lulu, he then said, "Lulu, thanks for going to the capital to see me. I won't say any more thanks, but I will treat you to a meal after getting back from abroad." After hesitating, Ouyang Lulu suddenly asked, "Tang Xiu, what is the relationship between you and Kong Xia?" With a serene expression, Tang Xiu replied, "It's just a relationship between a boss and his employee." Even though Ouyang Lulu somewhat didn't believe it, but she still nodded. Her mood was quite bad since she saw Kong Xia in Tang Xiu's home in Southgate Town. She always wanted to find an opportunity to ask about it but held it back until now, as she then finally asked him. After having parted ways, a car from Everlasting Feast Hall came to fetch them. When Tang Xiu, Gu Yin, and Gu Xiaoxue had boarded, Gu Xiaoxue then spoke with a strange expression flashing in her eyes. "Grand Master, Lulu likes you." Chapter 272, The Feelings Between Master and Disciple. Whilst hugging Gu Yin and gently stroking her supple beautiful hair, Tang Xiu calmly said, "A lot of women have crushes on me. Don't tell me that you don't know that an outstanding man will attract women just like flowers attract bees and butterflies?" Pfft. Gu Xiaoxue was amused. She suddenly found that this enigmatic and profound grandmaster of hers unexpectedly had a humorous side. Tang Xiu looked through the window and slowly asked, "What Ji Qimei did recently?" "I had ordered her to find some herbs to concoct the spirit condensation pill. How's the progress?" Holding back her smile, Gu Xiaoxue replied, "All the herbs needed have been gathered. Elder Ji is about to refine the medicinal pill. If all goes well, she should have refined that spirit condensation pill by now." Tang Xiu's face flickered. He nodded and said, "The spirit condensation pill has a great effect on me, Yan and Ji Qimei. It will even have a good effect on you. Also, I have prepared a list of medicinal ingredients, with a total of 3,650 types of herbs, of which I'll hand over to you later. You have to find all these herbs with your every power. However much you can find, buy them all. I also told Chen Jizhong about this. He's running a medicine business, so you can contact him after you get the list." Surprised, Gu Xiaoxue asked, "Grand Master, with so many medicinal herbs, would it all be used to concoct pills?" Nodding, Tang Xiu replied, "Those 3650 kinds of medicinal herbs altogether can be refined into 7 types of pills. Each type has a wonderful effect for all of us. One of which is the nascent Amasar pill. It will help you to break your golden core, breaking through to the nascent soul stage." Nascent soul stage? Gu Xiaoxue's eyes turned bright. She firmly decided inwardly that she must find all the necessary medicinal ingredients needed to refine the nascent Amasar pill. She determined to refine the pill as fast as possible and break through to the nascent soul stage. "By the way, did the people I sent have arrived?" asked Tang Xiu suddenly. You mean, the wolf head team? Asked Gu Xiaoxue back. Nodding, Tang Xiu said, it seems they are here in the everlasting feast hall. They had already arrived before I went to Beijing. I already arranged for them to stay there and wait for your arrival. But Grand Master, I don't understand. Our everlasting feast hall has a lot of experts, yet why did you still recruit Wolfhead and his team, these retired soldiers? Asked Gu Xiaoxue. How many people do we have? Don't forget. One day I'll return to the immortal world, and the enemies that I'll be facing there are the Supremes. Although they don't feel like deliberately training their henchmen, then how many hundreds of millions powerful lackeys do they have around them? Who amongst them don't have troops of immortal legions to guard their territories, said Tang Xiu calmly. Gu Xiaoxue held her breath and immediately understood Tang Xiu's intention. Indeed. These supreme immortals were beings at the apex who stood at the summit and presided over trillions of immortals. It would be strange if they didn't have a large number of subordinates. Sighing, Tang Xiu continued, once, I also thought that my own strength was sufficient enough. That no one could shake me until I was. But from thereafter, only then did I understand one tough truth, a pair of fists will never be able to face four hands. Having formidable strength is no doubt important, but having a group of loyal, devoted, and powerful subordinates around you is no less significant. That time in the past, if I had a group of loyal subordinates to protect me, even if my enemies wanted to get rid of me, they wouldn't have been able to do so easily. With a dignified expression, Gu Xiaoxue replied, Grand Master, I understand your thoughts. The Everlasting Feast Hall only trained 20 well-qualified children in the last decade. It appears this number is far from enough. Surprised, Tang Xiu asked, 20 children? For the last 10 years, every year I left the Everlasting Feast Hall for a period of time, going outside to broaden my experience as well as looking for some well-qualified children. All of them are orphans from the streets who are suitable to learn cultivation techniques and were selected by me. I adopted them when they were very young. The oldest one is only 6 years old while the youngest is 1 or 2 years old. Frowning, Tang Xiu asked, you teach them cultivation techniques? Shaking her head, Gu Xiaoxue replied, no. I don't teach them cultivation techniques. I teach them only basic body tempering techniques for cultivation. On one hand, it can help them to change their physique, on the other hand, it will also make them accumulate their foundation from an early age. Hence, by the time they reach the peak of body tempering stage, I can pick out the outstanding candidates and teach them more advanced cultivation techniques. Actually, this is also on behalf of Master's orders. Tang Xiu suddenly understood, if so, I'll teach cultivation techniques to the experts trained by the Everlasting Feast Hall after I have some free time later. Anyways, put their names on a list and give it to me later. Do remember, I don't care if they have a heaven-defying aptitude nor do I require them to be powerful. What I care about are their nature and loyalty. Understood, replied Gu Xiaoxue with a nod. The big guy from the Everlasting Feast Hall who was driving the car was crazily startled upon hearing Tang Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue's conversation. A longing and surprised expression burst intensely from his eyes. They were all orphans and lone children Gu Yan had brought up. They had been through brutal training by experts. Having an absolute loyalty toward Gu Yan, they would even immediately draw their blades to commit suicide or break the enemy lines if Gu Yan willed it. Likewise, they also knew that neither Gu Yan or Gu Xiaoxue were ordinary people. The path they had taken was the bloody and thorny one, however it also was the path for them to become extremely powerful experts. In particular, he could hear clearly the conversation between Tang Xiu and Gu Xiaoxue. The most shocking to him was the place mentioned by Tang Xiu, the immortal world. The supremes of the immortal world, as well as the hundreds of millions of immortal legions. This was a world he had never once imagined existed, making him passionate and not being able to wait to become a super strong expert immediately. He wanted to go to the immortal world, experience the grand, magnificent scene of the immortal world as well as fight with the powerful experts there. About those 20 adopted children you have trained, take me to see them once we've arrived in the everlasting feast hall. I'll bring 10 of them with me, said Tang Xiu. Surprised, Gu Xiaoxue asked, Master, where do you want to take them? I bought a private island and am preparing to develop it into a blessed land for cultivation. Thereafter, it will be our main headquarters. Anyways, there are 2 guys I remember, Mo An and Mo Ao. I'll also take them with me. I'll give the place to both of them to manage, said Tang Xiu faintly. All right, replied Gu Xiaoxue with a nod. At the everlasting feast hall. After the car entered the parking lot, Tang Xiu took Gu Yin out and then looked at Gu Xiaoxue, saying slowly, I'll see her now. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. She motioned several security guards that greeted them and then walked toward the sea along with Tang Xiu and Gu Yin. Master, it's the sea. Even though Gu Yin was more mature than her peers. But she was, after all, still a child. Seeing the gleaming reflection of the sea waves in the sunlight, she was immediately excited. Faintly smiling, Tang Xiu lifted her up and jumped onto the boat anchored to the shore, whereas Gu Xiaoxue floated midair as the boat automatically sailed toward the sea. Open it, said Tang Xiu. Gu Xiaoxue nodded and unceasingly pinched her fingers, forming seals. The seawater in front of them separated, revealing a passage leading to the seabed. Wow! It's so magical. Gu Yin's eyes stared wide as she exclaimed. Smiling, Tang Xiu said, if you practice hard, you can also do this later. Wearing a dignified look, Gu Yin nodded heavily and said seriously, Master, I must cultivate seriously. I have to be as powerful as martial niece Xiaoxue. Martial niece? A helpless feeling rose inside Gu Xiaoxue's heart as her mouth twitched. She was indeed a martial niece to Gu Yin according to seniority. However, it was Gu Yin's age that made her rather depressed. After the blue sea opened, Tang Xiu and them came to the seabed. Whilst looking at the exquisite pagoda that effused golden light, Tang Xiu spoke, open it. All right. Gu Xiaoxue quickly made a seal and shouted in a deep tone. Of the heaven and earth profound emperors, only I alone am the sole revered sovereign. The golden light bloomed over and the pagoda's door slowly opened. Handing over Gu Yin to Gu Xiaoxue, Tang Xiu said, her cultivation is still low and cannot withstand the chilling atmosphere inside. Use your true essence to protect her. 2 minutes later, Tang Xiu arrived next to the ice bed on the 7th floor. He looked at the coma-induced Gu Yin laying on top of it. His expression turned soft as he lifted her up gently and hugged her silently. Seeing her yet again calmed Tang Xiu's heart. Either the good and bad emotions he experienced after meeting his grandmother or paying homage to the Tang family's ancestors, all of them disappeared at this moment. Mentioning about affection, Tang Xiu also had received a lot of apprentices, but the one that was very close to him was Gu Yin. She was like a daughter to him, for he personally brought her up, teaching her martial arts and directing her to the cultivation path. In the past, his mother was the person he had always been missing. This was the reason as to why he devoted himself to take care of her after his mother, shifting all the affection he had toward Gu Yin. Yen. Master is seeing you again. Caressing her beautiful hair that covered her face, Tang Xiu said softly. At the side, Gu Yin looked at Gu Yin with a curious look. Clever as she was, she realized that her master really cared about Gu Yin and was rather feeling at a loss inwardly, but she stood still beside Gu Xiaoxue, waiting in silence. She had already guessed that the woman in the arms of her master was her senior martial sister. For Gu Xiaoxue, she actually felt contented and satisfied at this moment. She could feel the concern and affection Tang Xiu had toward her master. Prior to this, she thought that her master had suffered so much for her grandmaster that she felt it wasn't worth it. Yet, at present, she finally understood. She realized that the feelings and affection that her master and grandmaster had toward each other truly came from their true nature, for every word and deed was just following the genuine intention inside their hearts. Master, please wake up quickly. Shui has found Grand Master. You'll certainly be very happy after you see him. Gripping her fist, Gu Xiaoxue prayed secretly inside her heart. Turning and looking at Gu Yin, Tang Shou said, she's your senior martial sister, Gu Yan. Because of me, she has suffered a lot of hardships. She is seriously injured now and continuously falls unconscious from time to time. Later on, you must respect your senior sister just like you respect me. Chapter 273, Strength Demonstration. It was dawn. The sparkling, gleaming waves reflected under the sunlight when the first ray of sunshine rose from the east. Tang Xiu, Gu Xiaoxue, and Gu Yin emerged from the seabed, returning back to the small boat as the split sea closed again. After returning to the shore, Ji Qimei had been waiting for a long time, standing on the shore. She then saluted Tang Xiu. Nodding to her, Tang Xiu asked, how's the refining of the spirit condensation pill? Turning her hands, Ji Qimei took 7 jade bottles and replied, all the medicinal ingredients have been used and refined into 7 bottles of spirit condensation pill. Receiving 3 of them, Tang Xiu then said, take a bottle and give it to Yan. You and Xiaoxue also take 1 each. As for the last one, give it to Xiaoxue for future needs. Understood. Ji Qimei gave 3 bottles to Gu Xiaoxue and kept 1 for herself. After putting it away, she said, Venerable Lord, I got news yesterday that there will be an auction in Hong Kong tonight. I also found an item on the auction list which looks like a soul tranquilizer stone, so I intend to leave for Hong Kong and participate in the auction. Soul tranquilizer stone? Tang Xiu's expression changed and almost without hesitation, he replied in a deep tone, soul tranquilizer stone is not an ordinary matter. The more of it you can find, the more time we can give Yen. So I'll go with you. Ji Qimei nodded. Looking at Gu Yin, Tang Xiu thought a bit and said, Xiaoxue, I had planned to bring along Yin to the private island and let her have some fun there. But the plan has to change now because I don't know how much time will it take. Thus, I'll leave her with you and let her play here for a few days. After that, have someone escort her back to Star City. No problem, replied Gu Xiaoxue with a smile. Pouting her lips, Gu Yin didn't utter a word. She wanted to follow Tang Xiu, but remembering she had to attend her course, she could only give up. Having finished breakfast, Tang Xiu let Gu Xiaoxue take Gu Yin to rest as he returned to the exquisite pagoda in the seabed. Accompanying Gu Yan gave him peace of mind. He sat in meditation until morning and not only didn't he feel tired, he was full of energy. After Gu Xiaoxue used the blood sacrifice art for him and he rested for 1 or 2 days, his mental force and star force that had been completely consumed had recovered. Now there was even faint signs of improvement. He had prepared to refine an interspatial ring and taking a trip to Jingmen Island this time. He brought the precious ores here and was prepared to refine the ring. After all, it was inconvenient to carry a baggage each time he went out without an interspatial ring. After lunch, Tang Xiu saw Wolfhead and his team. The serious expression on their faces made him secretly amused. He could see that Wolfhead and his team's attitude was somewhat different than before. Perhaps, after they had gone through the battle in Star City back then as well as seeing the many experts from the Everlasting Feast Hall, stimulated the huge changes in their proud attitude. Tell me what you think. Having carefully observed the 12 men for a while, Tang Xiu said lightly. Wolfhead said, Boss, I'm a bit puzzled here. Say it. It's just that you obviously have a lot of experts under you, boss. Why would you still accept us? Either those 20 experts in Star City or the guards from the Everlasting Feast Hall, nobody is weaker than me. For the past 2 days ever since I arrived here, I had compared notes with several guards here, and lost miserably. Do you really think that the experts under me are really many? Asked Tang Xiu lightly. Isn't it so? Asked Wolfhead with doubt. Sneering, Tang Xiu answered, this means that you know nothing. How could it be called many? Countless in number, endless and exhaustible. That is what the so-called having experts as many as clouds are. The everlasting feast hall may have a lot of guards, but it's far pitiful a number to me. It's far from sufficient. The people I want to cultivate are the elites among the elites, the strong among the strongest. Let alone you, even the guards from this everlasting feast hall are just ants in my eyes. Wolfhead had indeed seen how strong Tang Xiu was. Yet, listening to as how Tang Xiu regarded the guards of the everlasting feast hall as ants, it somewhat left him quite vexed and irritable inside. He thought that Tang Xiu was too arrogant. The other 11 men also had the same thought as they looked at Tang Xiu with a different expression. Tang Xiu's brows slanted and said indifferently, "You don't believe it? Boss, I admit that you're indeed very strong. But how could these guards of everlasting feast hall be weaker than you? If they were ants, nobody in this world can be called as a powerful expert." Tang Xiu frowned. He then turned his head to Ji Qimei at the side and said lightly, "What do you think about her strength?" Staring blankly, Wolfhead was surprised and laughed involuntarily before he immediately said, "Boss, could the elderly also be a martial arts expert? She might not even be able to beat us, right?" Answering in a cold voice, Tang Xiu replied, "Ji Qimei, those few trees 100 meters away outside are nuisances to my eyes." Ji Qimei finally looked up. Her cold eyes swept Wolfhead and the others. She waved the walking cane in her hand higher and swept toward the woods 100 meters away outside. Along with a suffocating aura bursting out from her body, invisible blade waves straightly flew toward the dozen trees that were as thick as a waist and cut them off. Bam, bam, bam. Dozens of big trees crashed to the ground loudly, creating a wave of dust. What? Wolfhead and his team were dumbstruck and aghast, looking at the dozens of trees 100 meters away that were cut. Their bodies shivered violently. They horrified and shocked to the extreme. As they turned to look at Ji Qimei, it was as if they were looking at a fearsome monster. Retracting back her aura, Ji Qimei put away her walking stick and said indifferently, "The Venerable Lord's power is not something ordinary people like you can ever fathom. Although I can destroy the entire Jingmen Island with a fist, but compared to the former Venerable Lord's power, I'm nothing but lower than an ant. You coming across the Venerable Lord and he valuing you, that's your good luck. Do remember. Whoever amongst you dare to doubt the Venerable Lord again, I'll kill him first." Inadvertently releasing her killing intent, Ji Qimei made Wolfhead and his team turn deathly pale. Their bodies were shrouded by a chilling cold aura in the air as they wanted to retreat, yet losing their abilities to move and act. It was as though their bodies were no longer in their control anymore. Terror. This elderly was too terrifying. Could she be still a human being? Wolfhead and the others shifted their visions toward Tang Xiu. At the moment, their thoughts of Tang Xiu being too arrogant vanished instantly. Seeing Tang Xiu lifting his head, they suddenly felt their bodies becoming lighter as they regained their control over their bodies. You just said that you can destroy the entire Jingmen Island with a punch?" asked Wolfhead, shivering. Letting out a mocking laugh, Ji Qimei said, "The entire Jingmen Island? Is this place even big enough to be in my palm? If for not because of scaring you, let alone destroying Jingmen Island with only a punch, I can even blow this whole planet and come out unscathed." "How could this be?" Wolfhead exclaimed in fright. With an indifferent expression, Tang Xiu said, "She said correctly. A lot of people are able to destroy a planet with a snap of their fingers. You're just ordinary people, there's a lot of things you don't know of. For now, you don't need to understand it. But remember my words. Perform well. If you do, I can train you so that in the future you can step into the air and traverse the universe." Wolfhead swallowed his saliva desperately. If not because Ji Qimei showcased such unfathomable might just now, they would have never believed Tang Xiu and Ji Qimei. But seeing is believing, and they finally realized that they were probably much weaker than ants in front of them. Loyalty and performance. Only now did Wolfhead and his team feel clear about this. They heard that Tang Xiu could make them very strong, but they had never seen him showcasing such an unfathomable method. But through Ji Qimei, they could see it at the moment. This was the true ability they wanted to learn from Tang Xiu. To learn such fearsome power that no ordinary person could ever have. For this, they were willing to pledge their loyalty to Tang Xiu as well as working for him loyally. Good. I will no longer speak on this matter anymore. Everything you saw today, I want it to rot inside you, to never be disclosed to anyone else, Tang Xiu ordered. In addition, as I'm leaving for Hong Kong, the 12 of you will go directly to that private island I bought. I'll text the coordinates to Wolfhead's mobile. Remember, you are free to find a place to settle there before I arrived. I'll contact you later after I get there. Yes, sir. Wolfhead and the others saluted respectfully. The 12 men left. Looking at the Mo brothers, Tang Xiu said lightly, "Follow me. We're going to Hong Kong for the auction. All the issues there will be under you two brothers to take care of. I'll send someone else by September." Yes. Mo An and Mo Ah replied respectfully. Tang Xiu then looked at Ji Qimei and lightly said, "Let's go. We can't be late for the auction." That's right, did you bring money? I'm tight on money right now. The young lady gave me 10 billion. If it's really the soul tranquilizer stone, she will transfer more if it's not enough, answered Ji Qimei. 10 billion? Lifting his brows, Tang Xiu asked curiously, how much funds does the Everlasting Feast Hall have currently? Ji Qimei shook her head, I don't know. I never ask about business issues. Tang Xiu smiled and boarded the car directly. 4 people boarded 2 cars and quickly drove toward Jingmen Island port. They must travel by water from Jingmen Island to Hong Kong since the 2 places were quite near in distance, and could be reached within a few hours. What surprised Tang Xiu was that Everlasting Feast Hall didn't have a private jet, but had a super luxurious cruiser. Even though the cruiser was not larger, but it could board hundreds of people on it. Little boss bought this since she usually explores the nearby islands every 2 years, Mo An, who was following at Tang Xiu's side, explained in a low voice as he saw his astonished expression. This cruiser is quite good. Let's go. I want to reach Hong Kong as fast as possible, said Tang Xiu with a nod. All right. Mo An led the way to board the cruiser. Chapter 274, The Mansion in Hong Kong. Hong Kong Island was one of the most prosperous cosmopolitan cities in the world and was known as the Pearl of the Orient. Along with the passing time and development, it had become an expensive place, the haven of the world's gourmet, a shopping paradise and the cradle of dreams. Luxurious cruise ships anchored in the Victoria Harbour and attracted a lot of eyes on the shore. After all, the price of this luxurious liner surpassed most of the other luxurious cruisers in this port. Boss, the car is here. After making a phone call, Mo An was following Tang Xiu toward the shore as he whispered. The Everlasting Feast Hall has people in Hong Kong, asked Tang Xiu in surprise. We have a branch here. The Everlasting Feast Hall has a total of 5 branches in the country. Apart from Jingmen Island's branch, we also have branches in Hong Kong and Macau. Before coming to Hong Kong, I called the head of the restaurant here, replied Mo An. I see. Tang Xiu nodded. Considering that the Everlasting Feast Hall had such a huge amount of funds, it indicated that their business was not only limited to Jingmen Island. After a moment of silence, he asked, aside from the restaurant business, what else do we have? Jewelry, antiques, and real estates, answered Mo An. We have so many businesses? Does Xiao Xue manage all of them? Asked Tang Xiu in surprise. Mo An laughed, no, boss. The little boss only controls the overall management. Each business of our Everlasting Feast Hall is managed by a special head. such as the one in Hong Kong, Macau, Beijing and Shanghai. Tianli is the one who manages them, whereas Hao Lei takes care of the jewelry business and Chen Xiaohua takes care of the antique business management. As for the real estate business, it's being managed by Jean Chang. Quickly, Tang Xiu saw Tianli, the head manager for the restaurant business. She wore a professional blazer, an elegant loose long hair, was wearing gold-rimmed glasses and looked to be in her 40s. All in all, she gave off the aura of an accountant. "Hi, boss." Whilst Tang Xiu was looking at her, Tianli also did the same. But she was quite shocked since Tang Xiu was so young. Tang Xiu nodded lightly. "Work hard. First, arrange accommodations for us. We will be staying here today and leaving tomorrow." "The mansion has been arranged, sir." Tianli opened the car's door for Tang Xiu and replied respectfully.
"Ah."
"Chief Tian?" Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded nearby, followed by a middle-aged man suddenly running over, followed by several men and women behind him. Tianli turned around and her brows slightly slanted when he saw the man. It was Hong Fong Advertising big boss, Hong Fu, and also a Hong Kong's Everlasting Feast Hall's regular patron. She smiled slightly and nodded. "Hello, Boss Hong." Hong Fu laughed. "It's quite unexpected that I'd bump into Chief Tian here. Yesterday, I invited you to play golf, but it's a pity that you had no time. Anyways, these people are..." Turning around and looking Tang Xiu in the eyes, Tianli hesitated before she replied, "Boss Hong, this is my boss. As for playing golf, we'll talk about it later. My boss has just arrived in Hong Kong and is tired, so I can't accompany you. Let's talk later." Hong Fu was stunned as his eyes landed on the calm Tang Xiu. He knew a lot about the Everlasting Feast Hall, but he didn't expect that its boss turned out to be such a young man. A few seconds later, he promptly pulled out a business card from his pocket as he approached Tang Xiu and smiled. "Hello, I'm Hong Fu, the owner of Hong Fong Advertising. I'm honored to meet you today. Might I know the gentleman's surname?" Tang Xiu took the card and swept his eyes over it, saying faintly, "I'm surnamed Tang." "I apologize, I have no business card." The smile on Hong Fu's face froze before his expression went back to normal instantly. He was a business veteran and believed that Tang Xiu must also have a business card. This excuse meant that not only the other party didn't want to exchange business cards, but he also didn't want to associate with him. "It's all right. Mr. Tang is the boss of the Everlasting Feast Hall and is quite a mysterious figure in our business circle. For a long time now we've wanted to know who the owner of the Everlasting Feast Hall is, but I didn't expect that you'd be so young. Since Boss Tang just arrived in Hong Kong, then I won't disturb you. But if you have free time later, you can call me and have some drinks." With his smooth personality, Hong Fu said with a smile. "All right." Tang Xiu nodded and then quickly boarded the car. The two cars started and quickly disappeared at the far end of the road. The several men and women behind Hong Fu arrived as one of the middle-aged men looked at him and said indifferently, "Old Hong, that young man is crazy. He's just the little boss of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Why did you need to be so polite to him?" Hong Fu turned around and forced a smile. "Do you really think that he's just the little boss of a restaurant? The Everlasting Feast Hall is not your ordinary restaurant." The middle-aged man was confused. "What's unusual about it?" "The headquarters of the Everlasting Feast Hall is on Jingmen Island. I've been in Jingmen Island for many times and also visited the headquarters. Speaking of the restaurant, the Everlasting Feast Hall also has an upscale villa there. They also have branches in Hong Kong, Macau, Beijing, and Shanghai. So, the annual income is huge." That middle-aged man said, "But even if the Everlasting Feast Hall is not a small enterprise, but it couldn't be bigger than your Hong Fong Advertising, no?" Shooting him a glance, Hong Fu shook his head. "Did you not hear what I said? That the boss of the Everlasting Feast Hall is very mysterious? Do you really think that he only has a culinary business? I have learned about this culinary enterprise and found that this Everlasting Feast Hall also has deep relations with Grand Fortune Jewelries. In other words, the two enterprises belong to the same owner. Do you think my advertising company can be compared to Grand Fortune Jewelries? What? The middle-aged man's face slightly changed as even the other men and women were also surprised. They knew about the Grand Fortune Jewelries. The enterprise had billions of assets at least. Its head was Hao Lei, a renowned businesswoman. A lot of businessmen in Hong Kong were curious about the secret boss of the Grand Fortune Jewelries whom the famous Hao Lei worked for. If the boss of the Grand Fortune Jewelries and the Everlasting Feast Hall is the same person, that means the identity of that young man is rather extraordinary, said the middle-aged man who had just spoken said with a change in tone and attitude. Hong Fu sighed, China is a big country and has numerous generations of powerful figures hidden. A lot of them are not open to public yet have a lot of power. It's kinda a pity though. That young man surnamed Tang is reluctant to have a close relationship with us. The middle-aged man laughed, it's kinda a given though. It's our first time meeting, after all. The more frequent we see him, the more chances we have to establish a friendship. Anyhow, let's go to my place and have an afternoon tea. We also have to attend the auction tonight. Okay, let's go. Hong Fu turned his head and replied with a smile. Qianshui Bay Road 13, Hong Kong. Here lied a grand and luxurious mansion, covering an area of 18,000 square feet that was valued in the hundreds of millions. Aside from the three-storied main building villa, there was also an independent warehouse, gym, tea house, sauna room, and indoor swimming pool. When two luxurious cars arrived in front of the courtyard front entrance, two security guards in black uniforms saluted and opened the electric gate with a remote control. In front of the main building's door. In addition to a garden, there was also an outdoor swimming pool. 10 men and women stood at both sides along the wide pathway leading to the main villa as they focused their attention on the coming cars. Boss, we've arrived, Tianli, who was sitting on the co-pilot seat, got off and opened the rear door and respectfully spoke. Out of the car, Tang Xiu saw the standing men and women on both sides and asked slowly, where's this? This is the real estate bought by Little Boss in Hong Kong. She came to Hong Kong twice in the recent years and stayed here. Yesterday I received news that Elder Ji will come to Hong Kong, so I tidied up this place in advance. Except for the maids who are in charge of daily maintenance, there's no one else living here, replied Tianli respectfully. Tang Xiu nodded and walked toward the villa's main building. The villa was luxurious and had an impressive interior decoration. Looking around, Tang Xiu quite liked this villa since this was more luxurious than his villa in Southgate Town. Do you want to rest or is there anything else you need, boss? Following beside him, Tianli asked softly. Tang Xiu sat down on the sofa and lightly replied, I'll take a rest and go to the auction later. You can go busy yourself, I'll call you if there's anything I need. Understood. Tianli nodded and turned away. Looking at the standing Ji Qimei and the Mo brothers at the side, Tang Xiu said lightly, Qimei, there's still time. Teach cultivation techniques to the both of them. I'll take a rest first, call me when it's the time to go. Yes, Lord. Ji Qimei nodded respectfully. Joyful expressions burst out from Mo An and Mo A's eyes. The brothers suddenly felt fortunate of having Tang Xiu as their boss. Perhaps, if they were to follow their original life, they probably wouldn't be taught cultivation techniques for a short period of time. Thank you, boss. The two knelt and couldn't repress the excitement on their faces. Tang Xiu shook his head, no need to thank me. You know what I think. Loyalty is of the utmost importance. Xiao Xue has told me about your performances as well as how dedicated you have been all these years. She's very satisfied and I hope you can make me satisfied later. Yes. The two answer solemnly. Waving his head, Tang Xiu motioned the three to manage their business as he went to the second floor. As he came to the main room, he found that the decoration inside had a feminine touch. There were also a lot of women's clothes inside the cloakroom, which made him realize that Gu Xiaoxue should have used this room before. Immediately after, he looked for another room next door and took the documents of the purchased private island from his suitcase. All the legal and relevant documents had been taken care of and given to him when he bought the island, but he had yet to read it carefully due to a lot of matters. Thus, taking the time before he went out, he decided to familiarize himself with it thoroughly so he could have a better understanding of the situation there. Chapter 275, Traffic Accident. After taking out the documents, the first thing Tang Xiu took out was a stack of photos. He didn't read the documents in a hurry but instead picked up the stack of photos and looked at them carefully. In the photos was a very large island amid a blue ocean, along with intertwining hills and lush trees. It was very beautiful to behold. There lied a magnificent European-style castle on the central peak of the island, along with a flat and smooth road that branched out to 3 directions. One was leading to the castle, one to the parking lot nearby, and the last one to the aircraft apron. 9 hills were spreading toward the sea along with a European small pavilion on each hill. A road lied downhill toward the sea area whereby some cruisers were anchored on the private pier. It's a 9-dragon island. The 9 dragons spitting pearl. He gazed at the pictures. The more he looked at them, the more content he felt. The blessed land he used to cultivate in the immortal world was called the 9 Dragons Spitting Pearl Secret Area. Merely looking at the exterior landscape, it was similar to the one inside his mind. The only difference was that the 9 Dragons Spitting Pearl in the immortal world was 100 times bigger than the 9 Dragons Island. After I have fully taken over this 9 Dragons Island, the first thing I must do is to contact the closest real estate company and develop it as fast as possible. It's a pity that the Long family's real estate company doesn't operate in the region, or else it would have been easier. After sighing inwardly, Tang Xiu then read the detailed information. However, he didn't trust the reliability of the information since the documents themselves were not too detailed. Knock, knock, knock. Whilst reading the documents and analyzing them, the door was knocked. Come in. Tang Xiu put the documents down and spoke lightly. The door was opened as Ji Qimei spoke to him, "Venerable Lord, it's time to go." Nodding, Tang Xiu replied, "Wait for me. I'll be there shortly." "Yes, Lord." After Ji Qimei left the room, Tang Xiu packed up the documents and put them into the document holder. He then went to the bathroom to wash his face and then came to the villa's courtyard. To his surprise, the 2 cars parked there were not the previous ones Tian Li used to pick him up, but a Rolls-Royce limousine and a Hummer. "Where are the cars we came in?" Tang Xiu asked in surprise. Mo An, who stood in front of the Rolls-Royce limousine's door, replied with a smile, "They are parked in the garage. A few years ago, the little boss liked to collect all sort of cars. I ordered it from abroad." "How many cars are in the garage now?" asked Tang Xiu. 4. "Except those 2 there are also 2 sports cars," answered Mo An. "Taking this car is kind of exaggerated, no?" Tang Xiu forced out a wry smile. Mo An laughed, "Boss, this is Hong Kong, there are a lot of luxurious cars here." The wry smile on Tang Xiu's face immediately disappeared. Upon thinking about it, expensive places such as Hong Kong had a lot of rich people. It was even reported in the news, on the internet and TV that the rich in Hong Kong were also particularly fond of buying all sorts of luxurious cars. It looks like the richest man, Li Jiren, is also in Hong Kong. The thought crossed Tang Xiu's mind as he boarded the car through the door opened by Mo An. This was his first time riding on a Rolls-Royce limousine. The interior design was super luxurious and was especially comfortable to ride on. There were sofas, small tables, LCD TVs, and a refrigerator inside. The life of the rich is truly extravagant. Tang Xiu sighed in his heart. 20 minutes later, as Tang Xiu was feeling drowsiness, he suddenly felt the car shaking and its body quickly swayed to the side, hitting the fence on the roadside. What happened? Tang Xiu woke up suddenly and growled. Mo An had stopped the car at this time. He turned around and smiled. It's a few sports cars. One of them crossed over despite the red light and hit our car. Tang Xiu looked through the window and saw a red car nearby that had also hit the curb. A young man and woman came out from the car. The young man was wearing earrings and had his hair dyed purple, looking handsome, and had an angry expression on his, whereas the girl was wearing sexy clothes and looked a bit pale. Creak. At the moment, 3 other sports cars stopped in the vicinity. Even though nobody came down from the 3 sports cars, but they were honking their horns. Looking at Mo An and knitting his brows, Tang Xiu said, "Go out and see them. We have limited time, we can't be delayed here." Yes. After he got off, the purple-haired young man angrily raised his arm and shouted, "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you feel so awesome driving a Rolls-Royce that you dared to block my car? Do you know who I am? Who are you?" Mo An looked grim as he asked. The young man slapped the cover of the Rolls-Royce and loudly said, "Jiang Yu. Have you heard of me?" Mo An replied in a cold and detached manner, "Never heard of you. It was you who hit my car. This matter will be taken care of by others and you'll have to discuss the compensation with them." Having said that, he dialed Tian Lai's cell number. Jiang Yu sneered, "I must compensate you? What damn joke is this? Who are you people? What great person is inside?
Ha!
Come out and see me." Moa and Ji Qimei came out from the Hummer. The short-tempered Moa snorted coldly and growled, "I'll give you a chance to get the fuck out of here. I don't give a damn who you are. Some people will check on your identity later and they will take care of the compensation matter with you." Jiang Yu frowned. He knew that he mustn't fight if the odds were against him. However, he couldn't accept being scolded by others. Immediately, he waved to the other sports cars to stop by. You can't solve such a trivial matter?" 3 young men hugging a sexy girl each came to Jiang Yu, smiling. They glanced at the Mo brothers before their eyes finally landed on Ji Qimei. One of the youths mocked, "You, like I said, you're too careless. Our car's speed is fast, isn't it? When you were driving, were you kissing your pretty girlfriend? Take a look, the old woman is so old, it's your fault if you scared her." Jiang Yu sneered and pointed to the Mo brothers, saying, "These 2 fellas offended me. I'm kinda unhappy with it. Whoever among you help me teach them a lesson, I'll take you to have a blissful a time tonight." The young man rolled his eyes and cursed, "You damn idiot. Don't you know a smart man doesn't fight when the odds are against him? Take a look at them. They are so damned sturdy and tough. You're only courting trouble if you fight them. All right, I'll take care of this, some people will take care of them later. We gotta go, hurry. In case the traffic cops come here, we will spit out some bullshits again later." Whilst pointing at the Mo brothers, Jiang Yu stepped back and roared, "You 2 wait. I'll remember you. Wait for this father, to make you kowtow and apologize to me." What a big tone. Tang Xiu got off the car and swept over the several youths with a cold and detached look and said indifferently, "Did the 2 of just hear what he said? For such a rampant kid, don't tell me that he's unworthy to be cleaned first and kowtow to you?" The Mo brothers were startled for a moment. Then, Mo Ao smiled widely and moved in an instant as he appeared in front of Jiang Yu and fiercely slapped him. Just with a slap in the face, he sent Jiang Yu flying for 4 to 5 meters before he hit the ground outside heavily, whereas Mo An fluttered and kicked the young man who had just spoken. Shaking his head, Tang Xiu turned and walked toward the Hummer. He didn't want to waste his time on these trivial silk pants. Fuck. Stop it. The other 2 youths' faces changed greatly as one of them roared loudly. Mo Ao shot a grim smile, punching him and sending him to the ground as he stood still there and asked in a stern tone at the pale youth, "Tell me, who are these bastards?" The youth's legs were somewhat trembling, but he still growled, "You're in bad luck. Jiang Yu is the eldest son of the Jiang Group's boss, Chen Fei is the heir of Wanyuan Real Estate, and Du Yang is the young master from Du Kong Winery. Whoever you are, you just hit the three of them, you will pay a terrible price for this. And you? Whose family's young master are you? Mo An asked and mocked. The youth stepped back unconsciously and growled, I didn't offend you, so you don't need to hit me. I am from the Cheese, Chi Chong Jing. Glancing at him with cold and detached look, Mo An said indifferently, count yourself tactful enough. Take them and get the hell out of here. If any of you appear before me again, you'll end up worse than this. Tell the elders of that surnamed Jiang that he must pay compensation for hitting our boss's car. Having said that, he, Mo and Ji Chime turned around and walked toward the Hummer. Shortly after, the Hummer started and left, leaving the Rolls-Royce there. As for the aftermath of the matter, Tianli would rush here later, they didn't need to take care of it. Chi Chongqing and the four sexy girls supported Jiang Yu, Chen Fei, and Du Yang up. Chi Chongqing shook his head and said, Jiang Yu, Chen Fei, you were really too rash this time. The price of this Rolls-Royce limousine is at least tens of millions of yuan, and I'm afraid that the people who own such a car are not simple. However, I have never seen that young man in Hong Kong before. If my guess is right, he should be coming from outside Hong Kong. Jiang Yu's cheek was swollen. There was also a blood stain on the corner of his mouth. He was thrown and had his head hit the ground heavily. He covered his swollen cheek and roared with hatred, I don't give a fuck about who he is. Daring to hit me, they must prepare for retaliation. If I don't make them kowtow and apologize to me, I'll change my surname to his. With the same hatred and anger, Chen Fei also shouted, there are a few untouchable people we can't afford to mess with in Hong Kong. But that kid is absolutely not one of them. I will send some people to find and kill him.